Hello folks, again, this is going to be part 2 of All of Me, and what I want to look at this time is the B section, and we're going to go over the melody of that B section and the chords as well. So what's going to happen in the B section is, for the first 8 bars, it's identical to the A section, so there's really nothing new happening in the first 8 bars of the B section. It's the final 8 bars of the B section which we have some new melody, notes, and chords. What I'd like to do is play the entire melody from A through B of the song, and I'm also going to play it this time in the 12th position rather than the first video I played it in the 7th position. The reason for that is you're going to want to learn your melodies for jazz songs in several positions on the guitar. The more the merrier. The more positions you know to play the same melody, the more control and awareness you have of that melody, more flexibility that you're going to have for soloing and for playing with other musicians, for example. And also an important part is when you're reading the music, I'm using the Fate book right now, volume 1, you see that the very first notes of the A section are actually written in this range. Okay. So what I'm doing, and what's very common here for jazz melodies on the guitar, is putting it up an octave. Okay. That way, you know, this works fine, but you're going to find that when you start playing with some other musicians, a pianist, a bass player, horns, saxophones, things like that, that the melody is really just going to work better in a higher octave. It's going to be more present and clear. That's not to say you can't play it in the lower octave or learn it there, but it's good to know it in several positions and also moving it up the octave. So here is the entire melody for All of Me, both sections. That's the entire melody. And if we just look at the last 8 bars of the B section to kind of go over what's new from the A section. So essentially the last 8 bars, and you have an F chord, F major, it's often played as an F6, which just means that you play an F chord with a D in it. So you have really all that's new in the B section, those melody notes that I just played. Okay. Now if we talk about the chords again, we're going to see that we covered the A section really well in the first video. So we're going to basically start the B section with the chords, and you've got yourself your C6. Okay. It also could be a C6-9 chord. When you add this D note, that's your 9. Okay, and your A is the 6, so C6-9, and then E9, and we talked about that could be E7, it could be E9 in the first video. Then we move A7, dominant 7. Okay, then we're moving to D minor 7. This should be all familiar from the first video. And then I'm going to move to an F6, okay? I don't mind playing the 6 at all. You could just play an F major chord. There's nothing wrong with that because somebody's going to be playing this melody now, whether it's you doing a chord melody, or whoever is covering the melody, a sax player, a horn player, a pianist. But if you want to go ahead and go for the F6 chord, there it is. It's just an F major chord with a D on the top. Okay. Now you could also, then moving on to F minor 6, we would end up doing, so that would be, but again, you could just do F major, F minor 7, okay, then C major 7, which I'm actually using an E minor 7 shape because they're both very related and close. I mean, there's C major 7, there's E minor 7. Then we have A7, which is the next chord. Then we have ourselves D minor 7, okay, which we could do up here. And then a G9 or a G7, whichever you prefer. And then back to the C6. And then what happens is we have a really nice little turnaround is what I call. So that would be E flat diminished 7, D minor 7, G dominant 7. And that can be done in several spots. So if I go to the last 4 bars again, we have D minor 7, G9, and then C6, 9, E flat diminished 7, D minor 7, G9. And by the way, those chords there, the last 4 measures of the song, we're getting something called a 2-5-1, really important if you're not sure what that means yet. It's an integral part of what jazz chords, what common and often jazz chords are used. And I'll probably spend a video on that someday, talking about specifically what a 2-5-1 means. But in this case, what it means is a D minor 7 chord, which is the second note of a C scale, going to a G dominant 7 chord, which is the 5th note of a C scale, going to a C, I'm going to use major 7, so 2, 5, 1. And that can be played in many different positions. 2, 5, 1. A really common thing that happens in jazz, lots of songs. Okay, so we covered the chords, we've covered the melody from both sections, and why don't we talk a little bit about some improvisational ideas. And I think what's important here is to discuss a little bit about the arpeggios that we could use. What is an arpeggio? An arpeggio is when we take a chord, like C6 for example, and instead of playing it like a chord, we would play each note one at a time. Okay? So let's go over that. So in C6, I'm going to do a lot of these in the 12th position because this is where I'm going to end up soloing over the song. So C6 is going to end up being like this. And then I'm going to end up moving to the next chord, which is E dominant 7. The next chord is A7. This is dominant 7. And then we have a D minor 7. E dominant 7. Okay, we covered that one earlier. Then we have an A minor 7. It's going to be okay, A minor 7. Then we have a a D dominant 7. D dominant 7. D minor 7 we covered earlier. And then the G7. Okay, G. B, E, F. And that covers the majority of the arpeggios that we can need to know in this song. The other ones would be the F6. It's like an F major chord, but we add a D. And then F minor 6 is F minor chord with adding a D as well. Okay? And that covers every chord arpeggio that you would need to know in this song. And they're all accessible here on the 12th fret in one position. It could be also accessible in other positions if you work that out and find all the different places to play these chords. And now moving on to some soloing concepts, there's a lot of different ways to solo over a jazz song. You can use imitation, you can use sequencing, you can use modal ideas, you can use licks, many ideas. But the idea I chose for today is a simple embellishment of the existing melody. And I like this method a lot for several reasons. One of the reasons is going way back to Louis Armstrong. This was a very common, in the genesis of jazz, it was a very common way of soloing. So they would essentially take the melody and embellish it. So it would be almost like a variation of the melody. And it also requires that you really know the melody. And I think that's one of the number one priorities when soloing over any song, is to really know the melody. That is the center point of soloing over any tune. It's really difficult to come up with a working solo for any tune without understanding the melody, without hearing the melody, without being able to play it comfortably. So what I'm going to do is pretty much show you what I'm talking about, which is I'm going to play the melody with an embellished form, and that'll be my solo. And then we can maybe dissect a couple things in there that I did that you can use for yourself. So starting off, I'm going to pretty much solo over the entire tune, and then we'll talk a little bit about it and wrap it up. So here we go. So what you see that I did there was essentially outline the melody, but added some notes to it, changed the rhythms a little bit, in a basic, basically a basic explanation of what it was. So for example, the beginning was, and that's what's written, but what you can do is, okay, and right there, I changed, some of the rhythms, and then moving on. So on that G note, next little spot was, and I decided to just repeat that. Okay, that E note, it was added, so repeat. And there I added a little bit of an interval, a major third, and then okay, and there we go again, using some of the same ideas. Okay, so essentially there I did repeating a repetition essentially. So you hear this, which is pretty much verbatim what we heard already in the melody. And then it just and I use that whole note A and whole note B, and then moved up to the tonic note of C by adding some neighboring tones. Okay? So that's some of the ideas that you can use when you're soloing, and hopefully these ideas help you and work out for you. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you have, and but I also look forward to putting out some more videos later on of some other tunes that I like and some other concepts and ideas that we can use. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and take care.